The Ethics of Intellect.
Hello,
I said.
are you on? Is there some kind of switch?
I was in a dark room with a single wooden desk in the center. A dim yellow light hung above that illuminated just enough to see the edges of the table. I liked rooms like this. They were intimidating, perfect for getting the truth out of someone. But for this? Didn't make much sense to do an interview, let alone here. But I was the unlucky officer that got assigned a case involving her. Switching on, I heard an artificial woman's voice. Then a small robot booted up in the darkness. It had a large lens that glowed blue for an eye. White coverings protected its robot innards. Its circular body housed its computer. What would be considered the head floated above. I thought it might be cute, but here, it just looked creepy.
Do you know why I am here?
I asked it. Yes, it said. You are here to interview me over the crash of spacecraft Papa Tango 762 November 7194 Yankee, or the Oath Keeper.
That is correct. Now here.
I pulled out a small Bible from my bag and placed it on the desk.
Do you swear before God that you will only tell me the truth?
I cannot lie to you. It tilted its head. I have little reason to, anyway. I placed the book back in my bag and replaced it with a pad of yellow paper and my favorite pen. I preferred to avoid technology.
What was your role on the ship?
I asked. I was the Chief Navigational Intelligence Unit, or NIU. I was in charge of making sure the craft stayed on proper interstellar routes.
Why do they need to stay on such routes?
To avoid collisions with planets, asteroids, and other spacecraft.
But that didn't happen.
Correct. On Earth date 0722-3200, the Oath Keeper crashed into Gamma 5, a moon of the mammoth planet Gamma.
And how many people died?
There were 2,345 persons aboard. This does not include the 200 artificial lives assigned to the ship.
That is a lot of lives.
The Oath Keeper was Sierra class. It could have fit over 15,000 people, but only the crew was aboard.
You have no remorse?
Correct. The crash was not my fault. I slammed my fist on the table.
We have the logs of everything that happened. Over 2,000 people were killed, and if you would have crashed into one of the populated moons...
The robot did not move nor speak. It stared at me in silence. I brushed off my jacket and began to cough.
Let's start at the beginning. I want you to tell me the events that led to the crash. In order. Don't leave anything out.
The robot's head tilted, and then it spoke. The Oath Keeper was flying a routine mission from Earth back to Yama 2. We had just finished a rescue mission where we picked up several thousand refugees from planet Daxtron before it was sucked into a black hole. Once we dropped the refugees on Earth, we headed home. Hour 78 of 132 at 1427 Earth time, Captain Reynold was on the bridge.
Stop,
I said.
Tell me about Captain Reynold. Was he skilled or well-liked?
He was both those things. He graduated first of his class from the Free People's Intergalactic Peacekeeping Academy. He was the youngest peacekeeper ever to achieve the rank of Yearlight, and won both the Peacekeeper's Model Captain and the Award for Valor at the Battle of Qutorn. He was a personal friend of mine, one of the few I had on the ship. Does this description suffice?
Yes, continue on.
Joining us on the bridge was also Lieutenant Jordan Miles, Lieutenant Stephen Haleway, Ensign Sarah Reithart, and Victor Damingway, a civilian equivalent of a first mate that was there for the Civilian Peacekeepers Exchange Program. All was going well. Each lieutenant manned their stations, while the captain sat behind with me. We both monitored the supercomputer that controls the entire ship. At 1427, the ship rocked dramatically. I performed a diagnostic check and noticed that our rear port stabilizer had been hit by a foreign object.
Like a rock of some kind? I asked.
Correct. I estimate that it must have been at least 200 feet in diameter to take out an entire stabilizer. I then relinquished the navigational controls as the captain ordered. I then proceeded to go into low power mode, which is done automatically when I am not in use.
But you are still able to see what is going on, even in low power mode, correct?
I am still able to function using my precise interstellar positioning unit.
And this PIPU made you aware of where you were?
Yes, along with all interstellar routes, other spacecraft, and the location of particular changes in gravitational fields.
All right, continue.
The captain flew the route presented to him by the ship's PIPU.
He also should have been able to foretell what was going on.
Perhaps. 3 ships had turned away from Gamma. He did not seem to notice.
But you did.
Correct.
And you did not alert him.
Correct.
What else did you see?
Gamma has a strong gravitational field, but it was shifting because of its own orbit. This shift meant that its moons would also shift their orbits, which placed Gamma 5 directly through our path of flight. The captain and bridge noticed, but then decided to stay course. They thought the likelihood the moon would be on an impact path low. All their attention was focused on fixing the rear stabilizer. At 1547, the captain saw the moon incoming. He first tried to veer starboard, and then he pulled up, but it was not enough, and the collision happened, instantly killing all lives aboard.
You knew the moon was in your path.
Based on historical and mathematical data, yes.
And you did not tell the captain?
I did alert the captain.
But he did nothing.
Correct.
As the Neo, can't you take controls from the captain?
I have that capability.
Then why didn't you, when you knew what would happen?
It was not my place to take controls.
But you knew the consequences.
It was not my decision to make.
They're going to delete your programming for this. Don't you know that?
Correct. Aniu stays with her ship. I stood up. My yellow paper was empty. It had provided no new information. In truth, I had hoped it would. I just needed something to grasp her reasoning for not saving those lives. But I found none.
Thank you for your time.
I looked at it.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, was all it said, and then turned itself off, never to be turned back on. Years later, I sat on my hospital bed. The pain was excruciating. My heart had finally given out. That was one of the prices of age, your physical body. The doctors had told me that they would put in a new robotic heart that worked just as good. But I refused. I wanted nothing to do with a robot in my chest. And besides, what did I have to live for anyway? An empty bottle? A dark screen? The wear of my bed?
I'd rather die,
I told the doctors who gathered round me. None of them had expected this. They all looked toward the chief surgeon.
On this planet, we have freedom,
he said. The rest of the doctors began to clean up the space while I closed my eyes and awaited my long sleep.
But sir, isn't it wrong of us to let him go?
An observing medical student asked.
On the contrary,
the surgeon said.
This is not our decision to make.